There is what you call the school of humility. And the school of humility is a lifetime. When you can't be advised in that school of humility, don't give us breaking news that God spoke to you. Because God speaks in an environment of humility. And as I come to today I want to speak about the second building material that we need to have to build a capacity, a material I'm calling diligence. That's what I want to speak today. The second building material to build our life, which we call diligence. Before I come to it, I'm speaking to people, those who are watching me here, those who are watching me through Facebook, those who are watching me through the YouTube. But if you ask many people today, from last year March, if you ask many people today from last year March, and you ask them, ni test gani sana unafia uwe nayo? Many people will tell you, I fear to be COVID-19 positive. Is that not what happening? And millions of Kenyans, when they wake up in the morning, they all pray. Millions of people in the world, they are all praying one prayer. God help me to be COVID-19 negative. So that's the prayer we are praying. But I want to tell you, there is more dangerous, more than COVID-19, that you can find yourself in. And it's a praise. It's not just corona. Corona hata iko chini sana. Because corona Mungu anaweza linda wewe. But there is one that is very dangerous. When you test positive for pride. When you test positive for, you see one, I want you to understand one thing. Today, when you have corona, most of the medicine people are given is oxygen. Oxygen comes from God. The oxygen comes from God. But when you test positive for pride, the Bible says God opposes the proud, but give grace to the humble. I want to ask you a question. The pride meter, actually a corona meter, the pride meter, when it tests you, it goes to the maximum. It goes to the maximum. What does that mean? You see, in corona world, it means we will give you oxygen that comes from God. We shall give you oxygen that comes from God. And you will be healed. But how about when you test positive for pride? One thing we know, you are an enemy of God because God opposes you. But many people, if you ask them, the test they fear is a test for corona, is a test for malaria, is a test for pneumonia, is a test for TB. But I want to tell you, there is a most dangerous one when you test positive for pride. And may God help us that we may not test positive for pride. Today I want to talk about diligence. I want to talk about diligence. The other building material for you to build a capacity, this is where you become diligent. You become diligent in life. A diligent person is somebody that is hardworking. A diligent person is somebody that is not lazy. A diligent person is somebody that does not do work. Unajua kuna watu kwa hii dunia wanafanyaga kazi sababu hawana unga. wanafanyaga kazi sababu jana walilala njaa, but they don't love working. That's why along the way as they go to work, kama mnaweza kutana na yeye umpatie ugabiri sa soko, anaweza rudi nyumbani, because si kazi anapenda, ni njaa anaogopa. Unajua kuna watu si kazi anapenda, yeye ni njaa tu anakuaga anaogopa. And the reason they work, hata ukimkutana na yeye akienda kazi anakuambiaga naenda kutafuta unga, jioni anakuambia anaenda kutafuta boga. They don't love working. There are people, according to them, work is a bother. Work is a bother. Work is just as a bother. And that's why in the morning they rebuke work, because work has stopped them from dreaming. Work has made them wake up from bed. Work has made them just wake up from the bed. Understand work. When God find a lazy person, and God wants a lazy person to understand the importance of working, God does not send a lazy person to a pastor. God does not send a lazy person to a politician. God does not send a lazy person to a Red Cross. But when God notices you are lazy, God sent you to an ant to run something. God sent you to an ant. A very small animal. Ambao ukipima kilo yako na upime yake, unaona Mungu amekufanyia madharau. Because an ant, na wewe uko na kilo 100. Si unaona Mungu saa zingine, how can God send you? Wewe uko na kilo 100 na akutume kwa kamunyama, kamududu kako na gram 10. The Bible says in Proverbs 6 verse 6 to 11, go to the ant, O sluggard, and consider her ways, and be wise. Without having any chief or ruler, she prepares her food, her bread in summer, and gather her food in harvest. How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you rise from sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding to the hearts to rest. Poverty come to you like a robber, like an armed man. Here God is sending us to an end. God akanotice tuko lazy, hatupendi kazi, we fear working, we love to sleep, we love to be idle, we love to be lazy. Tunakumbuka hata wakati tulikuwa primary na niko mmoja, hatukuwa tunaoga sababu tunapenda usafi. Tulikuwa tunaoga sababu tunaogopa punishment. Hii ni ya wanaume, si wanawake, sio kai mambo ya wanawake. That's why, sababu tunaogopa mwalimu kutuchapa. That's why tulikuwa tunaoga passport. And we used to say when we were young men, ya kwamba mwanaume ndiye tu yule mtu msafi duniani. Asubuhi anaoga uso, mchana anaoga mikono akule chakula, na jioni anaoga mguu asichafue kitanda. That's how we used to say. And many of us, that's the only way, that's the only place we used to take care. Until we came to run, we are messing our body. Kwa hivyo usiwahi sema wanaume hawaogagi. Tunaogaga, shida ni tunaoga mara 3. I want us to learn something, some secret about the ant. I want us to learn some secret about this ant. And one of the secret about the ant, an ant has what you call self-discipline. They have self-discipline. And as I explained, self-discipline is that practice of training people to obey rules you obey rules not because you fear punishment. That's what you call self-discipline. It's a process that you are in a school not because of discipline, but you are in a school as a way of life. Ukiwa shule, lazima tulikuwa tunachezea walimu akili. Hatujaoga lakini tunajipaka mafuta. Wanawake nyinyi hamna shida, lakini sisi tulikuwa na shida. Tunajipaka mafuta, lakini mafuta sababu inatufanya tumeremete, ilikuwa inaonyesha hata uchafu zaidi. Why? We took taking care of ourselves as a discipline. We feared discipline. I remember there was a guy ambaye alikuwa amevaa shati ya white, lakini hiyo shati tu ilikuwa tu hapa pekee, chini hakuwa na shati. Sasa hiyo siku walimu wakafanya checking, tukaambiwa tutoe pullover, na jamaa amevaa tu kakora mpaka hapa kwa mikono, kuenda chini hana kitu. That is somebody that is wearing a shirt because he feared discipline. And many of us are that way. Many of us are that way. Many of us, we fear discipline. We fear to work. Many of us, when we wake up in the morning, we fear to work. We fear to do work. We fear working a lot. We hate working. We hate even taking shower. Lazima ubeberezwe, uambiwe kuna zawadi baada ya kuoga. And I remember even in our secondary school, there was a guy who did not take shower. So one day people told him, tunataka tukachote maji ya kuosha darasa. And our secondary school was next to a river. When they went there, jamaa alioshwa na ndoo zaidi ya 100 because kulikuwa na mto. And I thank God Facebook were not there that time because it could be a shame forever. I want you to understand that when you have what you call self-discipline, you have an internal something. You have an internal battery that tells you, that guides you on what you are supposed to do. And that's why when you understand submission, you don't struggle to obey those who are in authority. Somebody has a self-government. You don't remind them to go to work. You don't remind them to pray. You don't remind them to give. You don't remind them to tithe. You don't remind them to honor authority. Do you know there are people who only honor authority because they fear the self? They don't honor authority because they love them. They only honor authority because they fear the self. At Yakwaba, you student, the reason haujachapa mtu ni sababu mulisomewa sheria, ukichapa mtu utafukuzwa shule. Unajua, that can be very, very funny. And that's why when you understand submission is a self-discipline, you now start to work it upon our life. You now start to work it upon your life. Our second characteristics about the ant. When an ant is working at night, the ant do not need supervision. An ant don't need supervision. An ant don't need supervision. Why do an ant don't need supervision? They have three things that guide them. They have what you call a self-government. They have what you call a self-drive. And they have what you call a self-motivation. Wakati tulipewa uhuru, unajua wakati tulipewa uhuru, wengi wetu hatukuwa tumezaliwa. Na wengi wetu wale tulikuwa tumezaliwa hatukuwa tunajua bendera ni za nini. When we had no self-government, what used to happen? We used to be controlled from breathing. But when we were given self-government, we were now given the rule to rule ourselves. So when you are an ant has self-government. An ant know this is the time to look for food. An ant has what you call self-drive. Many people don't have self-drive. Umeshawahi kuwa na gari au mko na neighbor ako na gari? Gari zile lazima uwe rafiki wa kila mtu. Sababu kila asubuhi lazima uite neighbors waigurumishe. Kila asubuhi lazima uite neighbors. Na kila jioni lazima uite neighbors muisogeshe ndani. Unajua ukiwa na gari kama hiyo hauwezi kuwa na adui na mtu. I'm talking about self-drive. That car cannot drive itself. It must be pushed. It must be pushed. There is something we call self-motivation. That you must be motivated to do something. Lazima uambiwe ukipea Mungu utabarikiwa. Lazima uambiwe ukikuja kanisa utabarikiwa, na usipoambiwa hautakuja. It's lack of self-drive. It's lack of self-motivation. When I was preparing this sermon, there was something that bothered me. When I was in nursery and primary, and lower primary, nilikuwa tunaambiwa ukipita mtihani, even the whole of primary, ukikuja na namba moja, kulikuwa na zawadi ya biscuit, ya dazi, sijui kama kwenu ilikuwa chapati, na ya vitabu. So meaning there is a child that want to come number one because there is a dazi. Si sababu anataka kuwa daktari, si sababu anataka kuwa kiongozi. So unapika dazi ndio mtu afanye mtihani akuje namba moja. That is what you call lack of self-drive. Kwa hivyo leo kama tunafanya mtihani, tusikie mafuta ilimwagwa na buzi. Kwa hivyo hata tukifanya mtihani hatutakuwa na madazi. Ni watu wangapi sana wanaweza fanya mtihani? Unless those who have what you call self-drive. One day I was preaching somewhere and I asked people a question. I'm a construction manager by practice. So I asked people a question related to my field. And I asked people a question. I was not trying to add anything new in the Bible, but I wanted people to think. Na nikawauliza watu, si huwaga tunapanua Thika Highway watoto wakizaliwa wengi? Si wakati watoto walizaliwa wengi, Thika Highway ilipanuliwa? Si mtu akiwa na watoto wengi, si anapanua nyumba? Sasa nikauliza watu, wakati tunapeaga Mungu tithe, tunaambiwa ya kwamba baraka zinatoka from a storehouse. Sasa nikauliza watu, assume biguni kuna kazi ya renovation ya kuongezea hiyo store. Kuna kazi ya renovation ya kuongezea hiyo store. Sababu watoto wamezaliwa. This is just an assumption. It's not in the Bible, but it's something to help you to think. Sasa nikawauliza, assume we want to increase the store of the building, of the store that carries our tithe, blessings of our tithe and our offering. Alafu tupate barua kutoka kwa contractor ambaye anajenga biguni, atuambie for the next 1 year we are renovating our storehouse. kwa hivyo hakutakuwa na baraka. So wale tu watapeana tithe ni wale tu watapeana out of wrath and out of revelation. How many people can tithe? In the next 1 year, we are innovating. So our storehouses for blessing will not be accessible because we shall be renovating. How many people today can give their tithe and their offering? It's only those who only tithe, who only give offering out of wrath and out of revelation. Are we together? And that's why it's good to ask yourself a question. When you are giving to the house of God, why do you give? Do you give it attached to a blessing? Or do you give it out of wrath? Do you give it out of revelation? Do you give it because you understand who has given you? That's what you call self-government. That's what you call self-drive. That's what you call self-motivation. My point number 3 about the ants. The ants are very, very hardworking. Very, very hardworking. And that's why even at night, they do not, when they notice there is food somewhere, they carry it the whole night. Na nataka uchukuze hii. Siku moja, assume umeamka saa 5, ukunywe maji. Amuka siku moja saa 5, wale wako na jikoni na wale walipika chakula na ikabaki. Amuka saa 5 ukunywe maji, uende jikoni, uangalie ile ugali ilikuwa imebaki au viazi ilikuwa imebaki. Utakuta hizo mchwa zinaibeba the whole night. Because wanajua 5 in the morning wasipobeba hiyo chakula usiku itachukuliwa na itapewa mbwa au itapewa kuku. So the ant know there is a time for summer and there is a time for winter. Ant wanasema haturali, usiku mzima tunahamisha hii chakula. They don't wait in the morning. They say this night tunakesha tukibeba chakula. Because they notice this is a time of summer. And in the morning winter will come. When mama will wake up, take all the food that is remaining, give it to the chicken, give it to the dogs. Na ikipeanwa tutakosa chakula. I want you to understand that for us to get rid of poverty, we must love working. And we must understand that laziness is a disease of a mind. Laziness is a disease of a mind. That's why mukikaa na mtu lazy, zile ijiri anataka kusikia rahisi sana ni kwamba familia yao ilirogwa, familia yao haiendeleagi, familia yao, all things, because it's a state of mind. And that's why lazy people, they see work as a bother or as a punishment. They see work as a bother or as a punishment. Ukimpatia kazi, you are bothering them. Ukimpatia kazi, you are punishing them. And that's why even in church today, there are people up to today, if you give them an assignment, they see it as a punishment, not as a privilege. Even up to today. Na mtu aliokoka 30 years ago, give him an assignment, unamsubua. Give him an assignment, you are bothering them. Give them an assignment, hauwahurumii. Give them an assignment, unawaonea. Are we together? When you see work as a bother and as a punishment, ukiitwa mkutano ya matajiri, we kaa nje kama Asha, usiingie ndani. because you'll be in the wrong place. My point number 4 is that ant has what you call foresight. They have what you call foresight. Somebody that has foresight. Unajua sisi wa Afrika tuko na shida moja. Na saa zingine tunakosa kuelewa. We have one problem in Africa. That's why our problem is very, very simple. We don't differentiate between winter and summer. That's why unaweza kuta jamaa amevaa nguo za winter wakati wa summer na mwingine amevaa nguo za summer wakati wa winter. Na akifaint tutasema ni shetani ana. Mtu akienda usiku na t-shirt na agojeke pneumonia, sisi wa Afrika tunasemaga anapigwa na kuna ataki ya shetani. Nguo 10 a faint, tutasema shetani anampiga. Because we have a problem understanding summer and understanding winter. Winter is a cold place. A winter is a place or is a time that you must be aware it's coming and you prepare it in summer. Like this story of Joseph, the dream of Joseph. Joseph dreamed there will be 7 years where we shall be having a lot of food. And there will be also 7 years where we shall have hunger. The 7 years with a lot of food is summer. The 7 years without food is winter. So Joseph was not told by God to rebuke poverty. Joseph was not told by God to rebuke kukosa chakula. But Joseph was told by God to make maximum use of summer in a preparation for a winter that is coming. The students that are here, when you are in the class studying, is a time of summer. During exam is a time of winter. Differentiate the two. We begin preparation for winter in summer. And everybody has a summer. But what the devil does, devil shows you, God hates you. You only have winter. Ukirudisha akili yako nyuma, hata wale wamedharau wazazi aje, ukirudisha akili yako nyuma, utakumbuka baba yako hata kama alikuwa shetani. Kuna wakati moja alikununulia dazi. We together? Are we together? That is summer. But therefore does not want us to remember summer. He only wants us to remember winter. Because he wants us to live a life of complaining. And that's why me, I have a problem when I'm trying to mentor people. Hata kuna mtu mmoja niliuliza, tukakosana, tulikosana. Amekuwa kwa ndoa of 10 years. Na anaanza statement, mimi kutoka niolewe sijawahi pewa chakula. Kamwambia acha kunichezea akili. Usiniambia hata courtship ulikuwa unakula kwa dust. Unaweza tuambia hujawahi patiwa chakula? Hata wiki ya kwanza ya kuchezewa. It can't work. It can't work. Ati baba hajawahi fanya anything. Acha kutuchezea akili. But the devil wants us to things. Because he only wants us to focus on the negative. Faith does not say we ignore planning. But many people only see planning as canon. When you are doing your study at school, when you are doing your saving, when you are doing your business, you are doing what you call planning. And planning is not canon. And today you are being your former leaders, your parents, you are what and what. If you cannot remember anything good they did to you, shida ni wewe. Eda uone daktari wa macho. Your eyesight has a problem. Eda Kikuyu kesho na uchukue ambulance. Uchukue ambulance kesho uende Kikuyu. Na barabara zote za Thika Road na Waiyaki Way sifungwe. Ukibizwe Kikuyu. Na ukikibizwa Kikuyu waangalie macho yako iko na shida. I want us to see. Foresight is about planning. You plan ahead. And that's why God is a planner. Before the creation of the world, God planned your salvation. And that's why we must have foresight. We must have foresight. Point number 5 about the ant, I'm nearing the finish, is that ants think ahead. They think ahead. They don't just think now. They think ahead. How do an ant think ahead? An ant take advantage of opportunities and favorable seasons. They are what you call favorable seasons. That free time you have for study, that food you have, those opportunities that comes. And I want you to understand, in life, you only benefit when you are able to identify opportunities that come along your way. And when you identify them, you use them to the maximum. How do you see your opportunities? I want you to understand, opportunities has a lifespan. See, ukinunua maziwa inakuwa na expiry date. Kuna maziwa haina expiry date. Kuna mkate haina expiry date. Even opportunities have expiry date. Like today, this time, I had an opportunity to preach Bible study. Na kama nikaijiwa na roho ya kiburi, pastor akeweka mtu mwingine. Au aje? Si kanisa ikisimama. And that's why you see when we give people opportunity, kama next year we are having elections. When we are having election, na mimi nataka kuwa MP. Mimi ni vile siko kwa siasa. Mimi tuseme nataka kuwa MP wa Juja. If I don't take my nomination papers, somebody else takes it. We together? That's why an opportunities have a lifetime. That's why you can't be there na unasema nisipofanya haitafanywa. I want to assure you itafanywa. You can't box God. You can't box a country. That's why hata kwa by election, even if you don't vote, kutokea watu wine wa vote, we will still have an MP. Umeshawaiona bunge ati MP wa by election yanafaa botai, wote wanafaa tai na salary yote ni same. Whether you voted for them or you didn't vote for them. And that's why whatever you are supposed to do today, do not procrastinate it to another day. If today is an opportunity for you to study mathematics, don't that time have a lifespan. Don't ignore it. Study it. If today is an opportunity to be a blessing to somebody, be a blessing at the right time. Because if you do not do it, God raise somebody else to do it. Even one thing that give me a lot of fear when I do mentorship, I know the assignment God has given me. If I don't do it, God raises somebody else to do it. So I can't box God. I can't tell God it's only me that can do it. If I has called me to do, God raise somebody else better than me, more qualified than me, more wise than me. Because his work has continued. My last point about the ant. The ant has self-initiative. Self-initiative. When you have a self-initiative, you understand that success is not an accident, but it's a plan. Success is not an accident, but it's a plan. And because success is a plan, an audit of habit and cultures. Because habit and cultures speaks about our life. One thing I've learned about God, God is so powerful, but God cannot force you to grow. God can't force you to grow. God is very powerful, but he cannot force you to grow. Ukikaa pahali ukatae kukua, hautawahi kuwa. God cannot force you ukue. Arete ardhi kuekidio ukue. Ukikataa, umekataa. And that's why the Bible says, he is knocking at the door. He can't break it. Na hata mpaka leo Mungu bado hajabomoa mlango. He's just knocking. God cannot force you to grow if you refuse. God cannot force you to give if you refuse. God cannot force you to serve if you refuse. God cannot force you to touch other people if you refuse. And that's why we must build an initiative to grow and to add value to life. You must now build an initiative that as I wake up in the morning, I have to purpose to grow. It must be a self-initiative. How do it happen? Every day. Call yourself to a meeting and ask yourself a question. Am I growing? Am I growing? Wakati mtoto akizaliwa hivi, mtoto yeyote, baada ya kuandikwa jina, hata wengine before waandikwe jina, akizaliwa, ni kazi ya midwife kumpima kilo. Sidio? Kumpima kilo. Na manapo mpima kilo, akikuja kwa kliniki ya 2 weeks, wanapima kilo. Akikuja kwa kliniki ya 1 month, wanapima kilo. Akikuja kwa kliniki ya 2 months, wanapima kilo. Wanaendelea hivyo mpaka wakati atamaliza kliniki. Na wanapopima kilo, kitu moja inafurahisha daktari ni wakati anakuta graph inapanda juu. Si iko hivi na si iko hivi. Daktari yeyote akiona mtoto graph yake iko hivi, anajuaga that is an abnormality. Akikuta graph iko hivi, we call it retardation. Akikuta graph iko hivi, we call it growth. Do you have a graph in your life? Do you have a graph for growth? Do you have a graph for spiritual growth? Do you have a graph for personal growth? Do you have a graph for social growth? Do you have a graph for mental growth? That's why daktari yeyote soba shida mtoto wa miaka 3 akikuja clinic, amuulize unaitwaje, amwambie hajui. Mtoto wa 4 years amuulize anaitwaje, aanze kulia. Mtoto wa 10 years amuulize baba yako na mama yako, daktari yote anajuaga. Here we are dealing with an abnormality. Here we are dealing with a retardation. Here we are dealing with a negative growth. And that is not the will of God. The will of God is for a graph to grow, to rise, and to rise. God expects that as you grow, the demons you fight changes as you grow up. The demons, and that's why ile mahesabu ulikuwa unapewa nasari sio ile unafanyaga leo. Wewe bujichekere ati nasari mwaka mzima uliandika tu jina yako. Ati unaletewa mtihani na mtihani tu ni jina yako na jina ya baba na mama. Na unaanguka. Na unaulizwa ati kwenu mko wangapi? Na mlikula sapa pamoja na unaanguka. Na una expect leo uletewe mtihani kama hiyo. Tuko na shida kwa wokovu. Na mtihani ile tu alipewa wakati aliokoka ndio anafanyaga leo. Mimi sipedwi. Mimi kuna watu wananiangalia vibaya. That's why you can find somebody after 20 years in salvation, they still don't know their gift. They still don't know what they are doing on this earth. They are still mark timing after 20 years in salvation. Is that not a retardation? Bado hajajielewa. And that's why every day, can you call yourself to a meeting? As I finish, can you have a weight measure? Unaona ile measure ya kupima kilo? Ununue yako moja spiritually, uiweke pahali spiritually. Uwe unakanyaga, unaangalia kilo. Unaangalia mentally niko na kilo gapi? Socially niko na kilo gapi? Psychologically niko na kilo gapi? Socially niko na kilo gapi? Na unachora graph, chora graph. Si daktari lazima achore graph. Akuambie kama na daktari yeyote akipima mtoto alikuwa na 4 kilos. After 4 months apate yako na 4 kilos. Anakuulizaga swali. Mtoto anakulaga mzuri. Si lazima awe ameokoka. Si lazima hata awe anajua Mungu. Lakini daktari yeyote soba anakuwaga na shida wakati graph yako haikui. Do you have a problem when your graph is not growing? Or you are comfortable that the demons you are fighting for 5 years ago are fighting today? You are in the same. And I want to tell you that we do not